Hi, my name's Lisa Courtney, and I am your host for the Elephant Method podcast, a podcast created for non native speakers from around the world to share their latest innovations and communication secrets so that you can walk into any room in English. And today we're going to meet with Josephine Ho. She is a career growth coach who has developed a method called SEEN, and I can't wait for her to share it with you. Let's get started.
All right. So, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Josephine. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Now,
you.
yeah, can you tell us who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, so my name is Josephine Ho. I am a leadership and career growth coach. And reside in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, you are a growth coach. What does that entail?
Yeah, so specifically more career growth.
Mhm.
And what that really entails is about helping people who feel stuck in their career to grow. And so what that could mean is understanding what are the patterns that are keeping them stuck in this like pattern that they're experiencing. But secondly, helping them with like the specific strategy that's going to help them get noticed in a way that's still authentic to them and develop in a way that is going to be sustainable for them to actually grow in their career.
Oh, wow, that sounds amazing. Well, can you give us a little information about one of your favorite clients that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite clients is she came to me because there was recently a restructuring at work and she then applied for the more senior role on her team.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until that application took place did she get her first ever official piece of feedback that she wasn't ready.
Oh.
And it was disheartening for her because she worked so hard. Like, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I poured my heart and soul into this job. I did everything that I am ever supposed to do. I've excelled in every single project, every single performance review. You told me that I'm exceeding
Mhm.
expectations. So now you're telling me I'm not ready." But what she didn't realize is that she was in this invisible pattern at work. So she did amazing work.
Mhm.
She never self advocated, right? She always thought it was just self promotion. It's icky, it's cringy. Those are her words.
Mhm.
But we work in an environment where that is almost expected and not in like a self-boasting pretentious type of way, but
Mhm.
people need to hear your thinking. So it's great that you got a project to the finish line multiple times,
Uh-huh.
but people didn't actually realize the strategic potential and the leadership potential that she has. And so she came to me not understanding what this pattern looked like for her
Mhm.
and that she was actually stuck in this invisible pattern. So I helped her to unpack it.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how did you learn to unpack these invisible patterns?
A lot of these invisible patterns, and I'm just generalizing at this point because her invisible pattern is very similar to mine. I would also say it's very similar to a lot of first and even second generation immigrants who now
Mhm.
work in the Western workplace.
Uh-huh.
And it's that we grew up with the concept of just put your head down, do really good work, and you will be rewarded. And yes, to a certain extent, that is true. And I would also say, up into a certain point in your career, that could be true.
Uh-huh.
However, to progress beyond, I would say, a manager level, to get into director, to get into vice president levels, that concept doesn't work any longer because as you progress in more senior leadership roles, you're not only relying on your execution, you're relying on your ability to influence, to really drive a vision, to get people behind you and, really rallying behind a belief. So a lot of first generation, second generation folks that I work with in particular don't have that experience. I mean, one of the things that I look back on, even in my own history, is that I came to Toronto to Canada when I was 8 years old. And one thing that I didn't get exposure to when I was young is being in a kindergarten class, sitting in a circle, and doing show and tell.
You
So we were
didn't?
no.
Oh.
So one thing that, a lot of folks who grew up here
Uh-huh.
learned is like the spotlight.
Yes.
Being put on the spot, having the ability and the opportunity to speak up when
Mhm.
everyone else is just looking at you.
Yeah, I hear you. We absolutely do, and we have fun. We love show and tell. It was like, "Oh, what am I gonna take this week?" Right, when I was a kid. So much fun. And so what popped into my head was self-advocacy. It sounds like you deal with a lot of advocacy and maybe also so that they can articulate what kind of skills and abilities they do have in order to get those positions.
100%. And a
Mhm.
lot of the times it's really being strong, like in a strong belief in your own value, which we sometimes lose when we're being passed over in these
Right.
opportunities, right? So your
Absolutely.
confidence starts to erode. So it's how do you really tap into not just your strengths, but what are your values? Because then your values are expressed in your strengths and how you show up every single day. So really hone into your values and not only understanding that for yourself, but it needs to be unwavering. So whatever it is that your circumstances that you're facing that is a challenge for you, always go back to this is what I stand for. And I'm not going to sidestep away from this. So that a way is self-advocacy number one. It's believing in yourself and what you stand for. But secondly, in self-advocacy is do others know your values? Are you talking about your values? Are you
Mhm.
making decisions through the lens of your values? And do other people understand what those are?
Yeah, seeing your value. I absolutely get that. So you mentioned that you were not always in Toronto. So where were you
Mhm.
born?
I was born in Hong Kong.
Oh.
Yeah, so we came to Canada before the handover back to China.
Mhm.
A lot of Hong Kong people did leave Hong Kong at that time. And so, yeah, I came here when I was 8 years old. So
And
great, great.
right. And so did you speak English when you came?
I spoke like a little bit of English.
Uh-huh.
When I was in Hong Kong, a part of the curriculum that I was taught is within the British system. So we were
Right.
taught really basic English.
Uh-huh.
But was I good at it? Absolutely not. Like I couldn't say anything beyond hi, how are you? And so that was definitely one big struggle that I had
Ah,
to
8
Canada.
years old. How did the other children treat you?
I would say, honestly, not well. I think there wasn't an understanding. And I reflect back on my experience and I felt like the whole journey from Hong Kong to Toronto, no one or any type of immigration type stories, no one can really prepare you for that experience until you're in that experience.
Yeah. When you're
And
8.
yeah.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
the other thing, right? So my parents got some coaching before coming.
Oh.
So they learned about like the daily differences of functioning in Hong Kong versus being in Toronto, what employment could look like for them, having unfortunately, to have to take a step back in their career to move forward. Like they got some level of coaching. So they had an expectation. But there was no coaching for kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like you come here, no one really expressed to you what those dynamics could look like. They tell you on the surface level, like you might look like you're the only one in a class, but they never tell you the level of I don't want to say bullying, but to some extent it's bullying
For sure.
that you experience. And so no one quite prepared me for that. And I was an only child, and I say was because I now have a half brother. But growing up, I didn't have any other siblings or people who are my age to relate to. So it was pretty isolating, I would say.
And how does that really shape your personality? So, like, I'm American. What are you?
Mhm. I would call myself Chinese Canadian.
Chinese Canadian. Okay, that's
Mhm.
interesting. And how does that affect your view on the world, right? So, being from America, we have our own unique view. And so, what does your view look like?
I would say my view has changed over time, and not
Mhm.
until my adulthood did I really discover my view. And that is really leaning in to this kind of cross cultural understanding that I had.
Yeah.
And I would say we were really lucky to have like landed in Toronto and in Canada. So I am a very proud Canadian. But I would also say, being in a workplace that is still like Western
Mhm.
dominated, in terms of the culture that we function in, there were things that I picked up when I got into the workplace that didn't necessarily translate into what I expected. So it taught me this level of empathy, but also this level of just cross cultural understanding about
Uh-huh.
how we bring our full selves to work.
Uh-huh. Well, and I actually love the Canadian culture. I know have a few friends that are Canadian. Just they seem like American to me in general,
Mhm.
and we meshed really quick when I was down in Mexico, so it was lovely to meet them, and they really just seemed like my next door neighbor. Not much different, right? So it's
Yeah.
like it would be fun. I'm sure they are. I just don't know how. So now, how did you get change? What I understood is that you used to work in an HR position. And
Yes.
then you transitioned into your own business. How did that happen?
So this transition only took place last year.
Oh.
I was working for a company. It was a tech company, and as this is 2026. A lot of the tech companies have been going through significant restructuring,
Mhm.
and we weren't any different. So I was there for about 3 years. I was the director of talent management and inclusion, like diversity and inclusion. And it, I was laid off. And so what I looked back on at that time when I got laid off was actually it wasn't grief. It was a bit of a relief, to be quite frank,
Oh.
because I didn't enjoy my time there.
Mhm.
And when I looked back on what was happening, it's that I didn't necessarily feel my sense of purpose
Mhm.
fulfilled. And I didn't feel like had a sense of impact in the work that I was doing.
Right.
And so I left feeling very like relieved that that part of my career is somewhat over, and I was forced to exit
Uh-huh.
it. Um and it made me force myself to stop and really reflect what it is that I wanted to do in my life. And it wasn't that anymore. It wasn't that corporate environment where,
Mhm.
you go all out high performing and not necessarily feeling like you have the level of value that is being recognized.
Right, it's like you give your heart and it doesn't come back to you, so
Exactly.
makes it really hard, huh? Well, who
Yeah.
was your greatest cheerleader in leaving the corporate world and starting your own business?
I would say, oh my goodness, there were so many cheerleaders, and first and foremost, my spouse, my husband, who noticed that I wasn't my happiest
Huh?
in my last role. And even when the whole conversation took place about a restructuring, and I told him when he got home from work, I was like, oh my gosh, I was laid off today. And he was like, I'm so happy. Yes.
How did you respond?
And I was like, "You're right." Like, and he's like, "Whatever it is that comes next, like, we'll figure it out." And
Oh.
I took a few months off to just decompress
Uh-huh.
and really reflect. And then eventually I was like, you know what? This is the niche. This is my mission that
Uh-huh.
was murky for me. But
Yeah.
now I'm very clear on what I want to do, which is to help these quiet professionals, generally first and second generation, um, folks who work really hard but don't get the recognition that they deserve at work, and
Uh-huh.
they're stalled. And I was like, I want to help these folks break some ceilings. And he's
Oh.
like, oh my goodness, like, yes, this is still you, go for it. And, my family's been a big supporter. Even now, I'm recognizing like people who were part of my professional journey
Hmm.
now are coming back to me and saying like, "Oh my goodness, this is perfect for you and I
Wow.
love to work with you. Like this is what you stand for." And I see that. And so it's been really nice to have both like overt cheerleaders and cheerleaders who are, have been a little bit silent, but now are coming out of the sidelines to be like, "Yes."
I love that. It's really hard when we get pushed, right, by the universe out a different way. Oh, that doesn't feel good. But your husband's reaction was priceless. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so encouraging. How wonderful. What makes you different from other career growth coaches?
Yeah, I would say what makes me the most different is that I don't just work on necessarily the confidence aspect or the communication or just the career growth aspect. I really look at everything holistically for my clients. So they typically come to me because they feel stalled in their career and they
Hmm.
want to grow and they don't know what others have that they are not exhibiting.
Hmm.
So I help them really unpack the whole um kind of experience of being stuck at work and what's
Hmm.
going through in their mindset. What are they or not seeing at work? And then how they could be positioning themselves at work and what does that actually mean? And, you know, I stand out because I don't just like singularly help people in these specific silos. I take them through the whole entire journey to really help them map out what career growth means,
Uh-huh.
being who they are.
I love that. And you created a method. Could you tell us a little bit about that method?
Yes, so the method it's called the SEEN method, so
Mhm.
SEEN. And what is great about this method is that whole holistic experience. It starts with S, which is self, understanding really what you're about. What are some of the patterns that are keeping you invisible and are stuck in your career? And a lot of that has to do with your upbringing, the cultural conditioning. It could be introversion. So really tap into uh, what are the fears that are keeping you stuck? And it's not just, if advice like just speak up more, here's a framework worked, you would already be speaking.
Right? Exactly.
Right, but you're not. So
Uh-huh.
there is something that's hindering us. So we really need to unpack that first. And a lot of times people don't spend the time there and you can't sustain the outcomes. Like you can't sustain the career growth that you want by not knowing your value. So we start with self and then we move into expression. So now that you have a better understanding of what's keeping you stuck, what your values are, what your strengths are, then how do you express that day to day? So this is more around that self advocacy, but also communication. So how do you express yourself in one-on-one meetings, in team settings, in like leadership meetings? And we really pave out what that could look like next in the next E, which is experiences. So, experiences is where I really help my clients define what I call nano moments.
Oh.
That's going to stretch you outside of your comfort zone. And what a lot of people do is like once they kind of like bridge the gap between like, okay, this is where I am today, this is where I need to be.
Hmm.
They just want to take that big leap there. And
Right.
what they find is like they're not achieving those goals.
Mm.
And what they need to be doing differently is really what is the next step that you
Right.
need to take? And
That makes
really
sense.
hone in on that, right? And just taking yourself slowly outside of your comfort zone
Mhm.
and you don't get into the danger zone because imagine you're taking that big leap in a big leadership meeting.
Uh-huh.
That could be a career derailer.
It could be damaging, yes.
Yes. So really, it's just helping people move at a pace that is both challenging and rewarding at the same time, because then that reinforces your thought and your mindset. So going back to that first S, which is yourself. And then the next and the final letter, so the N in seen stands for next level. So a lot of my clients, as I said, want to grow in the career. So how do you position yourself? What does next level actually look like?
Right.
And how do organizations define potential? So it's not just about your performance. People are looking for your growth in terms of your potential to take on more senior and progressively critical roles in the company. So what does that mean? And how can you kind of take the few steps back to, plant your experiences in a way that demonstrates your potential?
Uh-huh. No. So the Elephant Podcast is actually for non-native professionals. And I wondered if you could give them one piece of advice from your own journey of how they could overcome some obstacles with their English.
Yes. So I would say number one, I've heard a lot of people come to me when it comes to speaking up. It's just, I need to build more confidence.
Mhm.
But no one has a roadmap in terms of what that actually means.
Right.
And I would say to help people to speak up, and especially if English is non-native to you, is number one, like confidence is both a mindset and a result. And so when you're thinking about your mindset, like visualize for yourself, what does it actually look like for you to speak up? And visualize it consciously and consistently. And there is a power in visualization because, the highest level athletes actually visualize themselves cross a finish line.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the rehearsal. And once the brain can see it, then your body will catch up to that feeling that you have in your brain and it becomes less foreign to you. So now that you visualized it, as I said earlier, what is the next logical step for you to take? Like,
Uh-huh.
what is the one next small step for you to take? And that's how you start to build confidence. So it's not like, if you haven't been speaking up before, like, it's not getting up on a stage and making a big speech.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
It could be in like the next one-on-one meeting.
Yeah.
What do you want to say differently? How do you want to show up there?
Mhm. I love that. And it's so interesting. So I actually worked with an Olympian from Germany and
Mhm.
and we went back to that training to get her a marketing job with the military. So
Yeah.
exactly that same idea is we're doing visualization so that she could, see herself. I think she ended up having like 3 or 4 interviews. So it took a little while to get the job, but yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Well,
very cool.
yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned it. I knew that our ideas and some of the work that we do is very similar. So very fun. Well, I love that you're precious. It's really nice to have you on the podcast and to as a friend. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you very much. What's the next thing you have coming up?
So I am in launching mode for my group
Mm.
program,
Uh-huh.
which I'm so excited about. So, for the past while, I've only been working with clients on a one-on-one basis, and that's been really rewarding. And I will continue to offer one-on-ones. But as I was offering the one-on-one, I noticed a consistent pattern that I was helping with. So basically, to help my clients have that transformation and the result that they want, I've packaged everything into a group coaching experience. It's called the Same Leadership Experience, where there will be group coaching, a community support hub, in addition to some really quick lessons that you can take on your own to help you go through that whole method that I talked about before, understanding yourself, how to express yourself, how to communicate confidently, how to develop on the job and position yourself for next level. So that is going live next week, April 2nd. Um, I know. So if you want more information on that, you can go onto my website. In addition to that, if you're not sure, I do offer a free 15-minute meet and greet
Okay.
so that I can help you understand where you are and, if the group coaching experience is the right fit for you or the one-on-one. And so we can really tailor a solution that's going to help you be the leader that you are.
I love that. Fantastic. Shall we could you mention the name of your website and we'll also put it in the chat below?
Absolutely. It's workwithjosephine.com.
Okay, you guys, you heard it from Josephine. Workwithjosephine.com. She's fabulous. All right, Josephine, thank you so much. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.